Hello, my friends from Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the Daily Tech News CES briefing for Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. We're going to give you a complete look at the news coming out of CES. I'll be doing these shorter briefings each morning this week, all the way through Friday, even after I'm gone from here, followed by our regular DTNS discussions in a separate episode later in the day. So there's just more DTNS for you to cover this CES. And then we're actually going to continue the practice next week. More on that later in the week. I'm Tom Merritt. Let's start with what you need to know in the big story. And the big story is Nvidia. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang gave the prime keynote address at CES Monday evening. For consumers, that meant new GPUs. These new GPUs run on the Blackwell platform. Blackwell has been used for its AI tech. Now it's going to be used for the RTX 50 series. Blackwell's tech can anticipate what the next frame should look like rather than simply calculating the shade of each pixel. I'll get to that when I talk about DLSS 4. They won't be cheap. The RTX 5090 comes later this month for $1,999. The RTX 5080 for $999. There's also a 5070 Ti. That's $749, and a 5070. That's $549. Both of those are coming in February. All of the RTX 50 series cards are PCIe Gen 5, which if you know, you know, and include DisplayPort 2.1b connectors. That means you can drive displays up to 8K and 165 hertz refresh rate. Of course, you can get that refresh rate higher with some magical algorithms. They're all billed as at least twice as fast as the 40 series. The flagship 5090 will be a 2-slot GPU and can fit inside a small form factor PC. It has 32 gigabytes of GDDR7, a memory bandwidth of 1,792 gigabytes per second, and a massive 21,760 CUDA cores. Also uses a lot of power, 575 watts. Recommended PSU requirement of 1,000 watts. That's 125 more than the 4090, but it's also supposed to be more power efficient, so you might not be pulling those watts all the time. You just have to have the capacity to do it. Along with the new chips is DLSS 4, which will also work on existing RTX cards. That's what does the predicting and can improve image quality, reduce ghosting, add higher detail and motion, stuff like that. Later this year, a native GeForce Now game streaming app will come to the Steam Deck. That means you won't have to use a script to get it running anymore. It'll support up to 4K resolution and 60 frames per second with HDR when connected to a TV as well. GeForce Now is also coming to the Apple Vision Pro, the Meta Quest 3, and the 3S, and Pico, to the Pico virtual and mixed reality devices. Finally, in the gaming area, NVIDIA's digital characters have moved beyond NPCs. You can now have an open-ended conversation with a fellow player, not just a non-player character. They're powered by small language models, which NVIDIA says let them perceive, plan, and act like a human player. They're multimodal, too, so they can actually hear audio cues and see the environment in the game. First one you can play is coming to PUBG. It's called PUBG Ally. It is the world's first co-playable character, so get ready for a new acronym, CPC. It'll be able to find and share loot, drive vehicles, fight other human players for you, and also make recommendations on strategy. You can talk to it in a natural language in a chat. Following that, Naraka BladePoint Mobile's PC version will get a local inference AI teammate feature in March, and then the PC version will get one later on. There's some other games that are going to get it as well. They're also going to use them as a boss in We Made Next Mir 5. So you can talk to the boss, I guess. Maybe try to convince them not to crush you. There's also a desktop PC created along with MediaTek called Project Digits that runs a single Grace Blackwell super chip. So CPU, NPU, GPU all together, large amount of RAM, $3,000 device meant for running very large generative models. That's for developers who want to work on something local. Huang also announced the world's biggest car maker, Toyota, is going to use NVIDIA's autonomous driving products in its cars, including its drive chips and software. NVIDIA Cosmos is a program to improve robots and autonomous cars, create video from text that can be used for virtual training at lower expense and danger than real-world training. That allows for repeated tests with infrequent events. Uber will supply data to NVIDIA based on the millions of trips its cars makes per day to help improve models for autonomous cars. NVIDIA also said it has certified its products with multiple government transportation and safety organizations, if you're worried about that. It sounds a little bit like NVIDIA wants to become a car tech thing as its next and logical step from being an AI company. So GPU to AI, and then using that AI for autonomous cars. For look for them to be pushing a lot of that. There was a lot in this keynote as well. A lot about robotics, the Llama Nemotron family of models to advance agentic AI. There's going to be some of those on Hugging Face. The autonomous game characters I talked about, Mega, an omniverse blueprint for developing, testing, and optimizing physical AI and robot fleets at scale. This keynote went on for 90 minutes. It was a packed arena. Nvidia is the tech company. It may not be the biggest tech company, but it is the tech company that everyone is paying attention to. It gives me Microsoft 1999 vibes. Jensen Huang's Nvidia CES keynote in 2024 feels like a Bill Gates Microsoft keynote in 1999. So much so that the keynote affected share prices before it even happened. Obviously, it did after it happened too, but it is NVIDIA's, I don't know if I'd call it NVIDIA's arrival because it's been here for years, right? But this definitely was the time where it feels like, oh, we're back to a keynote, even though they have multiple keynotes at CES, a keynote being the one that everyone was paying attention to. And it made so much news. I mean, this NVIDIA keynote could have been its own event, separate from CES. DTNS is made possible by you listening right now at our Patreon, patreon.com/DTNS. Big thanks to Tim Ashman, Johnny Hernandez, and High Tech Okie, along with all the patrons that make this show possible. There's more we need to know from CES and beyond today. Let's get to the briefs. Meta will phase in community notes to replace third-party fact-checking starting in the U.S. over the coming months. They didn't say if it would go to other countries, but they're definitely going to do it in the United States. The system used by X, Community Notes, they're not using X's system, but a similar system to what they use on X, relies on users to agree on notes that add context and clarification to posts. So not just one user. You have to have a bunch of users, and maybe they have different perspectives. CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the company is, quote, getting rid of a number of restrictions on topics like immigration, gender identity, and gender that are subject of frequent political discourse and debate. The company will focus on cracking down on, again, I quote, illegal and high-severity violations. Meta also says it's going to move its trust and safety teams out of California to other states, specifically Texas. So I'm going to talk to Justin Robert Young a little later in this show about this, but a huge change for Meta. Again, they are not getting rid of moderation. They're still doing moderation. They're not getting rid of their independent oversight board. The independent oversight board actually welcomed this as clarifying things. They are replacing independent fact checkers, third-party fact checkers with community. So as you'll hear when I talk to Justin, you can think of it a little bit Wikipedia, a little bit Reddit. Getty Images will merge with Shutterstock, and Getty CEO Craig Peters will be CEO of the combined operation. The stock will trade under the symbol Getty, so it's technically a merger, as these things often are in paperwork, but Getty's buying Shutterstock. Getty is absorbing Shutterstock. Dell is changing its branding to use 3 brands from now on: Dell, Dell Pro, and Dell Pro Max. Sounds very much like another company called Apple. Say goodbye to XPS, Inspiron, Latitude, Precision, no more. There will be no new models introduced under those brands. Existing models will keep their names, but eventually those will all be gone. Dell will be used for the consumer models and commercial PCs, Dell Pro for the professional grade productivity PCs, and Dell Pro Max for PCs that provide maximum performance. Were it all that easy, though, in each of those families, you also will have pricing tiers. So base, plus, and premium. Oh, and none of this applies to Alienware, which, by the way, is getting rid of proprietary parts, thankfully, but it will continue to have Alienware models. But yeah, you can get a Dell Plus or a Dell Pro Plus or a Dell Pro Max base. That's all going to be the thing you can do. Samsung announced its next Galaxy Unpacked event will be held at 1 p.m. Eastern in San Jose, California on January 22nd. It is almost beyond doubt that the company is going to announce the next Samsung Galaxy S phone because it's a Galaxy Unpacked. we're due for a new S phone. It'll probably be called the S25 unless they change the way they do these things. But we also might see the Galaxy Ring 2. And we might see something around one of the Android XR headsets they've talked about. Also, Samsung showed off a rolling ball with a projector at CES last year, and this year it says it'll go on sale by the end of the first half of the year. If you remember, or if you don't, the projector was for putting images on a wall. It's not like a TV projector. So it rolls around and then it projects things, and you can interact with them. You can talk to it, send it a text. Still no word on price, though. The Financial Times says its sources say Apple will expand Apple News beyond Australia, Canada, the UK, and the US soon to a bunch of other countries. While it does use algorithms for part of the app, Apple uses about 100 human editors to curate its top stories and create those featured sections. The expansion will reportedly continue to rely on humans, which is why they've taken so long to do this. So they're not just going to do it all algorithmically. It's also notable that this would be an expansion of ad-based businesses for Apple. AMD announced new laptop, desktop, and gaming handheld chips. AMD announced the Ryzen AI 300 series, the Ryzen AI Max series for Copilot Plus PCs, the Ryzen Z2 series for use by makers of handheld gaming devices. The Ryzen 9950X 3D is claimed to be 8% faster in popular games than the 7950 and up to 64% faster than the Core Ultra 9 285K from Intel. But the headline grabber was the AI Max series. Those are for Copilot Plus PCs. And the AI Max Plus, which has 16 Zen 5 CPU cores and claims to be 84% faster at rendering performance versus the MacBook M4 Pro. It integrates CPU, GPU, and NPU across the die, kind of like Apple Silicon does. There are also lower end and therefore lower cost AI 300 series. That's for AI PCs that also get the Copilot Plus designation without as much high processing power. There's also the Ryzen 200 series for affordable laptops, which aren't Copilot Plus. Suffice to say, AMD came out with a strong lineup of chips that keep it close to Nvidia and continue to move it ahead of Intel. Roger Chang had a good discussion about this on DTNS Live on Monday. Microsoft announced Monday that the Xbox app will be available on the newest LG smart TVs later this year. That'll let you play games from the $20 a month Game Pass Ultimate on your TV without having to add any other hardware. LG will launch a gaming portal on WebOS, and that'll include its own casual WebOS games as well. This is interesting. The Consumer Technology Association's futurist Brian Comiskey told the crowd at CES that the CTA projects record revenue for retail in the U.S. consumer tech industry this year. He pegged growth at around 3.2% above 2024, but warned that tariffs could change that number. If the most stringent tariffs being discussed, so the worst case scenario is 20% on all imports from all countries or a 60% tariff on imports from China. If that were implemented, spending on tablets and laptops would fall as much as 68%, according to Comiskey. Fall 58% for gaming consoles, 37% for smartphones. And that's the worst case scenario. It's not likely we're going to see tariffs quite that strict or high. If we saw no tariffs at all, which is also not likely, Comiskey and the CTA believe we would enter a spending supercycle as people upgraded to new Copilot Plus PCs and other AI-capable devices. Lenovo made its sweeping announcements at CES. It includes, these are not all of them, go read Lenovo's website. They had a barrel full of these, but I found these to be the notable ones. The Yoga Slim 9i with a camera that's under the display, not in the sense of in the bezel, I mean underneath, behind the display. That arrives in February for $1,849. The Lenovo Yoga Book 9i with two OLED screens that you can use stacked on top of each other or side by side. That's $2,000, ships in May. And the first non-Valve made steam-powered handheld, the Lenovo Legion Go S. That will have a SteamOS powered version and a Windows version. The Windows version is coming first for $730 later in January, and the Steam one will arrive for $499 coming in May, along with a cheaper version of the Windows. There's also a rollable, the first rollable to be announced to go on sale. The ThinkBook Plus Gen 6 rollable is a Copilot Plus PC that will unroll from a 14-inch display to a 16.7-inch display. You either press a button or do a hand gesture. Voila, and it rolls right up. It is $3,499 coming in the spring. A few other bits and bobs here. The U.S. Department of Defense designated Tencent, a Chinese military company. Tencent is a big investor in things like Reddit, Snap, Riot Games, Epic Games, and more. That would probably reduce its investment. Defense Department doing this doesn't stop it from imports. It just bars government contractors from doing business directly with Tencent. It is the world's largest video game vendor, though, so that's interesting. John Deere announced it would put full autonomous capability into more of its vehicles, including tractors, dump trucks, and a riding lawnmower for landscaping jobs. This is for big riding mowers. It's not for your personal riding mower. But John Deere says it can get a fully autonomous farming system for corn and soybeans in the U.S. by 2030. If you were wondering what Razer was going to introduce at CES, looks like it's Project Ava. They always have a big announcement, not always shipping. But Project Ava is like Microsoft Recall for your gaming expertise. It takes thousands of pictures of your screen while you're playing and can tell you what to do in the game in real time. So it's a little similar to what Nvidia announced. Razer demonstrated it, telling a player to get ready to dodge a spinning blade, watch its health meter, stuff like that. Company says it is building a team for the service already and will have more to say at GDC in March. This is a service to tell you how to play, though. It's not a virtual character that plays along with you. There's a Korean company, according to Sean Hollister at The Verge, a Korean company called GGQ that is also developing a similar in-game assistance service. And finally, ByteDance may be worried about its app getting blocked from distribution in the U.S. later this month. That's supposed to happen on January 19th, depending on what happens with its Supreme Court case next week. Its app, Lemonade, has been running ads on TikTok encouraging creators to sign up for Lemonade. Lemon with an 8 at the end. You can use your TikTok login, promises to transfer your followers over, does that by prompting the followers to go download Lemonade. The law that may be used against TikTok would also apply to Lemonade, but only TikTok was named in the law itself. So they would have to designate Lemonade as an app to be blocked and give it the same amount of time, which is 9 months, to be notified that it has to divest itself of Lemonade or it will be blocked for distribution. Right now, no one in the U.S. government is talking about Lemonade. All right, folks, those are the essentials for today. Next, we'll dive a little deeper in the ongoing stories and follow up on them. The first text I got this morning was from Justin Robert Young in all caps saying, they closed the hell portal. So I got him to take a break from feeding the baby and covering politics to talk about Meta's change in fact-checking approaches. So Justin, the hell portal has closed.
It has. And I didn't expect for this to be so kind of dramatic and for it to come from Zuckerberg himself, be used as kind of a corporate talking point. But we had a conversation on the roundtable last week where there was some shuffling at Facebook. And I said the larger term thing that I'm seeing here is that we might be moving away from the fact check era. We might be moving away from the let's have an arbiter of truth, which, as I have said to you and the listeners for years now, is a hashtag hell portal, hashtag portal to hell, especially if you were going to have the leading edge be political speech, not because any one team lies or is more deceptive, but trying to fact check politics is like trying to fact check whether or not Dr. Pepper really is the most refreshing drink.
Or whether you have in fact
yes,
out pizza the Hut.
Yes, exactly. It's just there's always a kernel of truth that is then surrounded by hyperbole. And so this was a lot more dramatic and it was even more nakedly infused with kind of something that's been whispered about a lot, not only in politics, but also in technology, which is the vibe shift.
Yeah.
And to hear that specifically mentioned by Zuckerberg was something that kind of surprised me. But then again, he put Dana White on the board the day before, so we're in a different era.
Yeah. It's it definitely shows, and I'm not trying to be pop psychologist to Zuckerberg, so I don't know if it's just in his makeup or if it's a recent thing, but he is willing to play to whatever field is setting the rules, and that's what's happening here. Is saying, hey, not just there's a new president or a new administration, but there's a new mood. There's a new feeling out there, and I need to make sure I don't lose people coming to Instagram and Facebook as well.
So there's a couple of things that I think are very important here. Number one, the fact that Zuckerberg even said, hey, we played along with government before, And we feel that government asked for too many things to be taken down. We did take them seriously, but now in hindsight, we believe that maybe it had gone too far. That's another sign that he's saying, look, this is not just, if you want to look at it just as cravenly as anything else, you could say, well, he was always a team player. It's just a different team now.
Right.
The other thing is that with his user base, which is getting older, both on Facebook and on Instagram now, they have not been king leading edge media for really 10 years at this point. Both of those data sets are getting older. When I was in Ohio for the Ohio Senate primary, where JD Vance was facing his toughest test against a Republican challenger, there was a big fight to see who was going to get the Trump endorsement. Vance had just gotten it. And so I go to a open town hall with Donald Trump Jr. and JD Vance. I'm in the back of the room. They open it up for questions. And Tom, when I tell you that fully half of these questions were to, at this point, two unelected people, can you get me unbanned from Facebook? I am not lying.
Yeah.
Like, there is a palpable sense amongst a segment, probably Facebook's most dedicated users, that have been very vexed by what they can and can't see on Facebook. And there's a million words that can be written about exactly why they feel that way. I think many are legitimate. Many are things that are drummed up by folks who want engagement. But there's no doubt that that was an issue. And this is Zuckerberg reacting to that.
Yeah. And again, just to be clear to people listening, it's fact checking, not moderation. So they're still going to do moderation. They're still going to have their independent oversight board, all of that. It's the fact checking part that's changing. And that is something that is algorithmically driven in a lot of cases. They're also pulling back on some of the algorithmic removals. And I have seen people who, I am guessing, I haven't asked them specifically, are not supporters of the incoming president, complain about having innocuous posts removed from Instagram. So I can imagine that if that's happening to everybody, that some people think, oh, it's happening to me because of who I am or what I say.
Without a doubt. And they're, I know this is going to be controversial.
Oh.
Part of this is that Elon Musk bought Twitter.
Yeah.
Elon Musk did take some of the restrictions away, and that while certainly there are many people who have complained about Elon Musk's tenure on Twitter, and I don't believe it has been a perfect one. I think that there are a lot of things that have gotten a lot shabbier since he has taken over. Community Notes was a success, and I think we can say that now. And having a more Wikipedia-esque, imperfect but quick, but it does feel like there is a sense of judgment if you see something that is wrong, that it can sometimes be a little silly, a little catty in the way that the internet also rewards. That was the layer that wound up being more palatable than the way things were done before. And this goes back to something that we have talked about for a very long time. Social media lacked moderators. And I don't mean that in terms of moderation, the broad sense, but in the message board sense. There are admins and there are moderators. And admins are the hand of God. They can delete something from the face of the earth. Moderators are the policemen. They are just trying to enforce the law. Sometimes they are perfect, sometimes they are not. But in general, they are just humans that everybody hates. And that is what community notes are.
Yeah.
Community notes are just that. It is a citizens police force that is now going to be brought to Facebook on a level that it had not before.
Yeah, I never thought about it this exact way, but it's part Wikipedia, part Reddit. You know, it's got elements of both in it.
Yes.
Well, Justin, I had to get your take on this, so thank you for sitting down and chatting about it. If folks want to find out more of what you've got going on, where should they go?
Now, of course, you can find me at politicspoliticspolitics.com, and anywhere you find podcasts online, just search for Politics, Politics, Politics or Justin Robert Young.
Thank you very much, Justin, for taking the time to do that. Next, Anker has a whole bunch of announcements, including a speaker that can remove vocals from songs for instant karaoke. However, if you're more into Anker's power moves, I talked with someone from Anker about their new wall charger and a solar-powered freezer.
I'm here with Emmeline from Anker.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to us. What is Anker announcing here at CES?
Sure. So we have different products today. We have 2 new products on our Anker Solid brand,
Okay.
and then 2 new products on our Anker charging brands. So let's start with Anker Solix.
Okay.
So we do have our new version of electric cooler. We launched the first version 2 years ago, and
That's
we're
this
launching
baby,
a
right?
second version. Yes,
Okay.
a second iteration. Few improvement since the first one. The main one is the cooling technology. So we're using frost flow air cooling technology, enabling to cool the air first instead of the inside of the
okay.
cooler.
Yeah.
Yes. And the second one is the battery as well, the battery capacity.
Okay.
So the first iteration, we only had 1 battery, still a removable battery that works as well as a power bank. With the new one, users can add 2 batteries to go up to 100 hours of use.
Okay.
So, for example, for people that go camping for a full week, anything like that, pretty useful. And then last, we heard a lot of things regarding accessories. So our team created kind of like bundles for camping accessories. So, for example, umbrella holder or knife holder.
Okay.
Same as, for example, if you're going, by the ocean and then you're like, you want to have a picnic, this type of wheels can be difficult to carry in the sand.
Yeah.
So there's like, there's
these-
one made specifically, yes,
sand
for the
wheels.
sand. Yes.
Got it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And the
great.
second one kind of goes along with it. It's our solar umbrella.
Oh, right, I heard about this.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so how does this work?
So basically on the top, it has specific cells enabling to capture the sun. Yes. And then you can also, it has different ports right there where you can plug in into like different accessories as well.
So is that a wire that comes with it
It's a solar one. So for example, you can attach
for panels?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes,
So
yes.
you're attaching solar panels. I
Exactly.
recognize that.
Yeah. So for example, if you want to charge
Right.
your cooler through, the solar umbrella,
Gotcha.
it works
Gotcha.
with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much is the umbrella?
So we don't have pricing yet.
Uh-huh.
We're just unveiling it at CES. It's
Okay.
planned to launch around summer
Okay.
of this year, so we'll have more information in the next coming months.
No ranges or anything.
No.
But summer release
Yes,
date.
yes.
And what about the cooler?
So the cooler, we have 3 different sizes.
Okay.
This one is the smaller one, so we'll run in around $650. And then we have the medium one and the large one. The large one comes actually with a dual zone, so you can freeze on one side and then keep your like the rest cool in the other one. And then the dual one will be at $9.99.
Okay. And then you also have some chargers.
Absolutely,
there at
yes.
the end. Let's take a look at those if we can get
Yes.
over there. It's always a
Yes,
it's always
always a
battle.
lot of people at Pepcom.
Yeah.
So we have 2 new ones. Sorry. So we do have, this is a power bank, 25,000 milliamps, so it's TSA approved.
Okay.
With a built-in cable as well,
Okay.
which is really convenient because then you don't need an extra cable.
It's a USB-C cable.
Yes, USB-C, and then you have extra ports as well, USB-C and USB-A, and that screen as well.
And the
that
screen
display.
just shows your percentage. Does
Yes.
it have any other
Yes,
info?
it shows the percentage that is remaining, and then as well as information like
temperature,
the battery
yeah.
temperature, anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much is this selling for?
So this one is running for $99.99. Yes, and is launching tomorrow.
So if you're hearing this on Tuesday, January 7th, it's
It will
out.
be available.
Okay.
Yes,
Got it.
absolutely. Yes.
Excellent. And then I think I heard the same for this one, which is the new wall charger.
Exactly. So this one is a new wall charger. So this one is 140 watts wall charger with 3 USB-C and 1 USB-A as well.
And the collapsible pins.
Yes.
So that it's easy to store.
Yes.
I have the older version, so I like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And the ports are on the bottom.
Yes. So, for example, like it's something that we heard a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like when you plug it, then like sometimes you might not have the space because it's next to a wall or anything like that. Then you can run the cables through the bottom.
Very good.
Yes.
Excellent. And how much is this selling for?
This one is at $89.99 and also available on Tuesday the 7th.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Emily, thank you so much for
Of
showing me
course.
everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Did you know that DTNS is also on social networks? I know. Who would have thought? We are at DTNS Show. There's 2 S's in that. DTNS Show. That is our name on Threads, on Blue Sky, on X, on Mastodon, and Instagram. Go give us a follow and say hi. Also, big thanks to Emmeline from Anker and Justin Robert Young for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for this extra CES briefing. The show is made possible by our patrons, patreon.com/DTNS. There's also DTNS CES Live, which you can get on YouTube and Twitch and in this feed right here. You can find more details about that at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you tomorrow.